Hey everyone. We last left Ellen as she was about to enter the audience hall in the Endless Corridor and meet Lulu. So let's just watch and see where that goes. So Lulu is not in the Netherworld. It's kind of weird. I mean, we came here to find her. Don't really know what else to do. Yes, back to our original goal of tracking down Livane. And for all that Ellen said she can't return to the village until she knows, she probably could if I wanted to, but I don't. Yeah, I'd use it, but I don't know who I'd visit. And besides, the door disappeared. Oh, so that's the seal of Baral that's been mentioned. The seal around the Netherworld core. So the rules are pretty familiar from when we came through as Keats, just instead of capturing Padfoot, we have to capture Mabinogion. So given that, Peg Powler is our folk of choice. And we won't need to fight any of the other folks that we meet, because we just have to capture Mabinogion without defeating anything. We do see some new folks, but we can't capture them. At least not if we want to move on. And there you have it. Mabinogion is a much easier folk to grind than Humpty for Purple Dust. That's where I'm going to be getting them. And really, I don't think it matters all that much what blend of folks they put in here with the Mabinogion, because all I got to do is hit it once. And I am getting a surprisingly large amount of purple dust, but that's good. And we'll worry about that new folk later. I presume there will be some in the second tower, and I can capture it there. If not, I suppose we'll have to come back and just violate the rules of the tower to get it. And Habitraut is pretty familiar. There's his sleep shot in action. In this case, it pretty much just costs me a bit of time. But I've got some nice effective wind attacks, and Garbera will take it out in one hit. I suppose I should really have worn the fairy cloak for this part. I mean, I don't think I'm facing any destroy element in this chapter, and slash element will just be answerer. Not really that much of a threat, honestly. And poor Boobry can be put to sleep. Now the eightfold Habitraut. Just get those bullseyes out there shooting in every direction. Garbera kinda tossing wind everywhere. And I might actually manage to capture this one. Which is good, because there are some very important rewards in this room. He's actually letting me capture him. And there's our picture book page that'll tell us how to fight the Folklore. We're already familiar with what the Folklore is from having fought it as Keats. Looks like this time we need to use a water attack to the eye, block the hands with Spriggan, do I don't know what, and then slash at the heart. Seriously, I have no idea what that picture in the upper right is supposed to be. Is it Habitraut? Didn't look like it was using any kind of sleep attack or anything. Well, anyway, on to the second tower, and I don't think there's ever prizes in those crystals. But we get to our save point at last. I really don't know why they couldn't just give us a save point the first time through. You know, like at the start of the first tower, and then before Flesh Room. That would be good. I don't think we need a save point at the second tower. Is he asking, why did we let her live? And it reminds me, we still don't know what the Fairy Lord is planning, do we? We just know that Livane opposes it. And that it involves the Netherworld core. And the same rules as before, kill everything else, and then Mabinogion. So let's see what it is we're going to face. There's Spriggan. As far as I can tell, it only appears in this tower. And I gotta watch because I think I may already have, yep, stunned Mabinogion. See, now the battlefield cloak might do something for me. But I don't think I'm going to worry about that too much. We just need the slash element for Spriggan here. And unfortunately, I don't think Mabinogion has any particular resistances like Padfoot did when we were fighting that. And Answer is not that great against things that have really strong attacks at close range. You can only get in a couple of hits between Spriggan's attacks, but that seems to have been enough. Now I just have to capture it and hope Mabinogion stays away. Fortunately, Mabinogion is really accommodating when it comes to capturing a Spriggan. It just sits there at the far side of the room. I think it's actually trying to run away from me. And at last, we have the best shield in the game. And I'm going to need to absorb 5 more Spriggan to build it up. And see if I can find a Skriker somewhere in this tower. Capturing Spriggan as Ellen is one of the most annoying things you have to do. So we'll speed through the rest of this part. You know, they're new rooms, but there's nothing you haven't seen before. There's an Answer and a couple of Humpties in the background. I forgot that Humpties appeared here. And they are at least vulnerable to the wind element, but not weak to it at all. As you can see, I can blast them with Boobry until they run out of electricity and have to restart them again. Non-elemental attacks are definitely the way to go. And I gotta rank up along the way. And here's the final room. I think it's 1 Answer, 1 Spriggan, and the Mabinogion. Nope, 2 Answer. And that's finally, I think, the last karma for Hobbledy. Just makes it a little cheaper. It's at this point that I finally realize Fraxinus is the best folk for fighting Spriggan, and pretty much any context where you need the slash element. That way I can keep my distance, attack safely, and just get the best of every possible positional advantage. This time I decided to go with Boobry and Quasarilli. Quasarilli do a lot of damage to a single target, but unfortunately they don't really seem to spread out all that much, even if there are other enemies in the area. And this one comes down really close, but I managed to do it and get the real prize of this room, the Cloak of Dawn. It's the first of 3 daylight-themed cloaks. You'll see the other 2 in future chapters, of course. But the Cloak of Dawn is at least a pretty normal cloak compared with the other 2. Doesn't really look a whole lot like a cloak, but its power of resisting thunder attacks is actually really beneficial. You've probably seen that folks that use thunder are not all that common, but it does a lot of damage. And I could continue on in the chapter, but I do want to go back and capture the folks that I've missed. That requires going back to that first tower because, as you saw, Skriker doesn't appear anywhere except the tower where capturing it gives you a penalty. The good news is it's not that big of a penalty and it's not really a problem. Also, I don't know whether you actually can leave the tower through the entrance once you've come in. But who cares? I've just got to figure out what I need to do to capture one of these guys. Non-elemental attacks clearly don't work. So let's try Destroy. Didn't think so. These are Destroy element folks after all. Maybe I can put them to sleep. Nope, but at least it didn't cost me as much MC as it would have before. Not wind, and one of them is already dead. So it just instantly restarts the room. You don't even get to finish what you were doing. Regrettably, since Mabinogion is in the room and hitting it is kind of bad, water is what we need. And if you didn't get to read the description there, don't worry, I'll be using Skriker plenty in the grinding video. Like I said to Rover in last chapter's grinding video, Skriker is basically the same thing as Koropuna, except you summon more than one at a time, once you built up enough karmas. And I want to capture more than one of them at a time, but Peg Powler doesn't seem to want to aim the way I want it to. You know, when you have to restart the room every time, it just makes sense to try to target two or maybe even all three of them with a single attack. But unfortunately, that isn't usually going to work. And I captured one at the same time as Mabinogion just to see, does it count, or does it make me restart the room? And in fact, it counts. So I'll come back for more Skriker in the grinding video. I do, of course, go on to complete the rest of the tower just cause, and I think I might have captured one of the other Skrikers along the way. Nothing you haven't seen before, nothing worth seeing again. But for capturing Habitrut under the time limit this time, and I don't think I've actually missed yet, I get another green liquid. So I think this is going to be the place where I can repeatedly get green liquid if I need them. And this is the first time I even bothered to look at Habitrut. I had one purple stone left. Those are actually really, really hard to find, so I'm glad I got extras in the last chapter. And I need 4 more green quartz. Not going to be fun to get. Not at all. But there's still one folk left. And to find this one, we have to go back to the start. This is actually, I think, either the only secret folk I managed to find on my own, or one of 2. I think the second one I didn't even realize was a secret folk when I found it. But when we return to the first room, the Thrumpen are gone and have been replaced by more automata. But these are no Humpties. We gotta fight them about the same way, of course. Electricity to charge them up, and then non-elemental attacks. I've done it with wind before, because it was the only thing that I thought of that they actually displayed their ids for. But these guys take a lot of damage to pull out their red id. With wind, I think I had to have Quasarilli active and summon Garbera and Boobri repeatedly just to have a chance of managing to get the job finished. As it is, I find that a combination of Quasarilli and, say, Berlachen or Puka manages to do the job pretty well. And then the downside, you have to capture it with the balance method. And this one takes a really, really long time to go down. Even if you manage to get the balance right, which is very hard to do. You want to know the worst part? I think Candela is the only folk in the game that drops purple stones. And I got one once, in a recording that I had to scrap and reload the game. So I didn't get to keep it. You have no idea how sad that makes me. But we'll take down this other one just to be consistent. And I accidentally kill it. Yeah, unfortunately when Candelas wind down, they don't just shut off and need to be restarted, they self-destruct. You definitely don't get credit for capturing them, and I don't know whether that counts as killing them for item drops either. But that is finally the last folk in the Endless Corridor. So it's time to go on and take a look at where we're going to fight the Folklore. As you may remember when Keats was here, we're not going to be able to get there. Oh, Livane, there you are. I think it's kind of weird to be getting that speech before we've actually heard the Fairy Lord's side of it. It's kind of interesting that Livane just comes right out and tells Ellen this Nema sign is caused by her own fears. I don't think we can fight here. This isn't a combat area. Also, you're not a folk. Should be mostly familiar stuff, I think. I'm wearing it. At least they tell you where to find the cloak, because it is pretty hard to find. Oh, it can heal. That would be bad. I'm glad that most of them don't. Yeah, I think some people in the thread were wondering why Ellen was afraid of discovering who she was. You may be beginning to get a picture of that now. It's not so much who she was in the past, but what she found when she was that age and when she was called Cecilia. So I was just going to leave the exit from the netherworld in the quest video, but as it turns out, this kind of puts us right into the cutscene that we eventually did as Keats in the Folklore video. So I'll just tack it on to the end of this one. Makes it pretty long, but so it goes. So this time I guess the cutscene was a bit more fleshed out, and we know a bit more about the nature of the fears that Ellen was so afraid of. Namely, what it was she found behind that door when she was a child. We heard that she got injured when she went in there, but we don't exactly know how or why. I think everyone may be in the church, but I only talked to a couple people. And as it is, Suzette still says the same thing that she said when she was in her house. Most likely the only person with anything new to say is Mrs. Lester. And don't worry, we will go back and visit everyone else in the village at the appropriate time. I think he means you spend too much time. Well, indeed it has, but we won't be fighting the folklore yet. Next time, quests.